Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Trina here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 4 of season 4 of What If Deku Was Given the Six Paths Power. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Once the heartfelt visit concluded, Izuku went over to visit Aizawa-sensei. Uraraka had given him the address so he would let him know that he had fully recovered. It didn't take much for the boy to find the place, and after knocking at the door that lacked a doorbell, he awaited its opening.
Midoriya!
Eraserhead had opened the door and reacted in shock. He had thought that his student would never get off that hospital bed he last saw him in. Ever since the incident, Aizawa had broken up inside. Losing even more students had shattered his resolve beyond repair. All those parents who trusted him with their kids had been left with only ashes and a soon-to-be-built memorial. If UA hadn't closed down, he would have resigned. He could only consider himself unfit for such a role moving forward. But he did have a few last rays of hope in his life that still allowed him to escape the darkness. First, there were the students of 1A that were still out there. Those that didn't resent him even after everything that had happened. Then there was also Uraraka, who had allowed him to open up like he hadn't in many years. He was very grateful to her for continually banishing his depressive thoughts away, and for also keeping him company at times when he wasn't feeling the best with himself. Aizawa was very proud of her, and he knew that girl would someday be someone that could help others in need, a true hero. So no matter what, he would look out for her until she no longer needed it. It was the least he could do to repay her. But there was still one more ray of hope that had recently broken through the void, one that had made him reconsider how to live from now on. It was Eri, his now adoptive daughter. The little one had been rescued from the Shihisekai raid, and even though regressed, she still seemed healthy to the doctors. That was until a fever appeared, and a nurse began to take care of her, treating her while carrying her. If only they had noticed a slightly enlarged glowing horn. If only they would have prevented another life from being lost. Within seconds, the nurse ceased to be, and only her clothing remained. Similar to what had occurred years prior, this nurse, just like Eri's father, had been rewinded out of existence. The hospital soon broke into panic as whoever made contact with the infant found themselves quickly rewinded to a younger state. Her loud crying only alerted more people, which made them check her. The chaos continued until Aizawa arrived and gave her a quick erasing glance. The crisis had been averted for now. Many tests were then performed on the rewinding infant, and it was discovered that she accumulated energy within her horn, and once it was full, she would release it indiscriminately. Only once the energy reserve was used up would she stop, a truly dangerous quirk for a baby to have running amok. So 2 days later, it was decided that the hero known as Eraserhead would take custody of the child and raise her to be able to control her extremely dangerous quirk. Knowing that only he could keep her in check, Aizawa agreed to do so. In a way, he felt that maybe this could help him atone for some of his past failures, which included not being able to save her on time. At first, it was hard to take care of little Eri. She was rather loud, and she never allowed him to rest, but by now, he had started to become accustomed to it. He never planned to have kids of his own. It was something that he never felt okay with. But now with Eri, he began to think otherwise. Perhaps it wouldn't be so bad to open up to others and start up a relationship in a few years. Still, his primary mission was now to take care of the little one so everything else could take a seat for later. In a way, it saddened him. The more he was reminded of what the doctors had told him, the more he blamed himself. As of now, the current Eri didn't show any hint of possessing the memories or skills from her past self. Those memory shards of hers had either been locked away or outright destroyed. All her trauma had vanished, but with it, the true Eri had also disappeared, leaving him with an entirely different and new person to care for. One that was never sliced apart to create ammunition, one that didn't live in fear, one that didn't lack love. Aizawa would give her every single thing that her life had been lacking before. He would give her a life worth living for. Even though he was carrying Eri, he grabbed his student and hugged him. Aizawa couldn't be more glad to see him again. He then allowed him to enter his home, and they began to talk about it all. No details would be skinned over. It took a while, but Aizawa informed him about everything related to Eri. The girl had fallen asleep quite a few minutes prior.
So that's the reason why she's under my care now. And that's even more of a reason for me never to allow her to harm anyone else with her quirk. Otherwise, I would fail as a father.
I'm certain that you'll do well raising her. I trust you, Sensei. Izuku reassured him while looking at Eri. She seemed at peace while being asleep in his teacher's arms.
Let's both hope that your trust isn't misplaced. My track record isn't exactly the best when it comes to taking care of children,
Aizawa commented right after. He looked a bit more down now than a second prior. It wasn't your fault, Aizawa-sensei. None of their deaths are on you, Izuku quietly exclaimed, trying not to wake up the sleeping Eri, but at the same time getting his point across.
I'm grateful for your words, Midoriya. Trying to take away all the blame swallowing me whole is quite heroic, but I'll have to decline it. It's up to me to decide if I'm to blame or not. So let's change the subject.
Aizawa quickly switched from being down to the serious mode he was known for.
So regarding your future now that UA shut down, and knowing your relationship with Uraraka, I can extend my help to grant you a scholarship to study alongside her. I know that it would make both of you happy, so I can make it happen if you deem it necessary.
Izuku thought about it for a moment. It was true that he would soon need to deal with applying to a new school to finish his high school education. UA being out of the picture didn't mean that he would become a dropout. Studying alongside Uraraka would also be a blast. He was more than certain that it would allow him to grow even closer. But this wasn't the way to take it. Midoriya knew that Uraraka had wanted to go on her own path ever since she regressed. It was only logical to do so after your entire life turned upside down. But even if it hurt him, Deku needed to let her go.
No thanks,
Izuku then said, shocking Aizawa with his response.
I believe that it would be for the best if I let her concentrate on her own path rather than forcing myself into it. When she showed me her uniform, her face told me everything. She was super excited to begin a new chapter of her life, to get to know new people, and most importantly of all, to excel at her new school. If I were to go there with her, I would just distract her. Remind her of everything that happened and all that came before. I appreciate that opportunity, don't get me wrong, I really do. But I think it's best if I let her go on with her new life. It's only fair to do so. I see. I'll respect your choice, but if at any point you change your mind, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll assist you in whatever you need,
Aizawa told him with a smile.
I do have one thing I need, though. Is there any chance that you can get me Nejire Hado's residence? I would like to have a chat with her if possible,
the young boy stated, waiting to see if his teacher could help him out with this.
Let's get in contact with someone first. Could you take care of Eri while I go make the call?
Aizawa asked.
Of course!
Izuku didn't hesitate even for an instant to answer. Aizawa handed little Eri to Midoriya and went to another room to make the call. Deku just remained in place as he held Eri once more. The last time he had done so, he had thought that both would die. So now it felt relaxing knowing that she wasn't in any danger. A tear escaped his eye then and there, quickly cleaning it away.
You know, Eri, I kept remembering that day when you held me tightly after escaping Chisaki. You were so scared, and I left you behind. I still regret that. Even if I was just following orders, I felt wrong. I wasn't a hero. Leaving anybody who needs help to rot or, even worse, to allow their abuser to trap them once more is something that a villain would do. At every turn, I have failed you, Eri. First in the alley and then at the compound. I should have grabbed you back then and gotten you to safety. You were injured, and all I did was throw a fit. Ripping Chisaki apart was all that coursed through my mind, and I left you to die while I fought him. It may sound morbid, but if it weren't for Shigaraki, you wouldn't be here anymore, and I don't know how to feel about that. After all that he has done to people I care about, and even to those not involved, I can't bring myself to forgive him as society has. My rage only grows the more I hear from him, and how he keeps getting away with everything without a care in the world. But I have to be fair. You are alive thanks to him, and even if he left you in this state, that's better than dying. The doctors might have said that you're practically a new person, but I refuse to believe that. I know that you are still in there, Eri. Your life, your experiences, your soul. None of those will ever be erased. So once more, I will apologize for failing you. I promise that someday, I'll be a hero like Muriel was to you.
Izuku quietly concluded. Not long after, Aizawa came back and handed Deku a note with the info he had requested a few minutes ago. The boy thanked him and handed Eri back to his sensei. The conversation continued for a bit until Aizawa took Eri to her room and placed her in her crib. In it, a part of the red cape that once belonged to Lemillion rested. It had become her blanket. Izuku hadn't noticed back then, but Eri, even as a baby, had held onto the cape with her little hands before the green-haired boy had grabbed her. And as the little sleeping one was now covered by it, she held it tightly and smiled.
Can you see this, Muriel? She's smiling. In the end, you were able to save Eri.
Izuku thought as his eyes watered up. His senpai had not died for nothing. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered. With our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in the description below. A few days passed, and Midori could finally visit Nejire Hado. It had been a bit complicated after getting over to her since she had moved back with her mother over the Akita prefecture, which was basically located half a Japan away from Deku's hometown. But he eventually found the time to do so, and he made it over and saw her small house. Once at the door, he made his presence known, and soon after, who he presumed to be Mrs. Hado opened the door and allowed him to enter. She served him some tea and questioned him about his reason for visiting. And Izuku told her that he was one of her daughter's kohai and he wanted a chance to speak with her. Mrs. Hado trusted him. He seemed like a good kid after all, so she allowed him to go to her daughter's room. Izuku took a deep breath and gave a few knocks on the door in front of him.
Pass,
the girl inside said. So Izuku entered the room.
It's you, the floaty boy who Uraka likes.
Nejire then added as she got a good look at the boy. Her usual cheerfulness was nowhere to be found at the moment. Floaty? Midori asked, confused about what she meant by that.
Yes, floaty. When we found you, you were floating while holding the girl. Both of you were unconscious, but you kept floating for a bit until you suddenly dropped, and Uraraka caught both the baby and you.
Nejire explained quickly, her tone sounding a bit monotone and entirely out of place coming out of her.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks, Nejire-senpai. Drop the senpai. I'm nobody's senpai anymore,
she said in a defeated tone before letting herself drop onto the bed behind her. Deku was confused about why the most cheerful and curious person that he had ever met was now reduced to a mere shattered shadow of a person, one that went against everything that she previously was. So, how are you holding up? The boy then asked, trying to break the awkward silence. The girl didn't even turn his way to look at him, but she still did answer.
Could be worse, I guess.
After hearing this, Izuku decided to sit down on the bed, and this definitely got Nejire's attention. She disliked what he had just done.
I would appreciate if you got off my bed, so get out of it!
Nejire exclaimed. She was rather annoyed now.
Sorry,
Izuku said as he stood up once more. Nejire jumped off the bed and stood face to chest with the boy. She was forced to look up at him, but she surely did as she began her assault.
Look, Deku, I'm not exactly in the mood to do this right now, okay? If you haven't noticed, my life fell apart. I just want to try to erase it all. I'm aware that the trip here might have been long, but please go back to where you came from. Go back to your home, or to Uraraka.
Nejire stopped as the boy suddenly hugged her. He held her tightly to let her know that it was okay to let it all out. He wouldn't judge her for it. We all need to do so every once in a while. Otherwise, we would explode. Nejire wanted to push him away, but at the same time, she felt like crying. It had been hard for her to accept everything, and now it all slowly kept crashing on top of her day after day. Just how long would she be forced to remember her past, her failures, her now shattered existence? Tears did come out slowly and eventually were noticed by the boy.
It's okay. Just let it all out,
he whispered to her, as she then began crying harder. A few moments of silence elapsed as Nejire slowly regained herself, and then she slipped out of the boy's grasp.
Thanks. I think I needed that,
she told him as she looked up at him.
I know. You feeling better now? A little,
she admitted with a tiny smile. Both then sat on the bed, and after a few seconds, the girl broke the silence.
I know that you're here to check on me, and I appreciate it. But even then, I feel like you shouldn't have come all the way here just for a quirkless nobody like the new me.
You know, I was also a quirkless nobody for quite a while, and I know how it feels. I don't see you as less or inferior to anybody with a quirk. Nejire, you are still important to others. Uraraka cares, and in a way, she blames herself for what happened to you, the boy explained.
Wait, slow down for a bit,
she exclaimed. It had been way too much to take in such a short time span.
So you were quirkless?
Yep, for over 14 years, he answered.
Then how did you...
Otherworldly Sage gave me powers after I recklessly tried to save a childhood friend. You know, quite the peculiar random occurrence. Deku told her. It had indeed been a weird way of obtaining his so-called quirk.
No way! So you're like an anime protag! That's so cool, you know?
The girl's eyes lit up for the first time since he arrived. I guess, he let out a bit embarrassed.
But that coolness can wait for later. You told me that Uraraka blames herself for what happened to me, correct?
She questioned Deku. In less than a second, she had gone from cheerfully playful to straight up serious. Yeah, I think that she believes that if she had done things differently, then you wouldn't have ended this way. In a way, I can understand her greatly. I felt the same way when it happened to her.
That silly girl.
Nejire smiled as she then added,
It wasn't her fault. All the decisions were mine. From getting my quirk taken away to ending up a little girl, they were all a result of my actions.
Could you elaborate, please? I would like to know what you meant by that, the boy said. requesting for more info to be given. It was my reckless outburst that got Shigaraki's attention, and this made him interested in my quirk, which he then stole. That was my fault 100%. After that, he shot me once, which I wasn't exactly expecting or felt like I deserved. But he had held a grudge against both my way of expressing myself, as well as something that had happened to a friend of his. Apparently, his friend had been shot by Uraraka twice, leaving her too little to enjoy her villain acts, so Shigaraki felt like an equivalent exchange to be carried out. In the end, I'm glad they gave me a choice and didn't just take revenge on Uraraka again. It would have destroyed me to see her suffer more than she already has. So I chose the final bullet to be used on me. And there I was left at as 11-year-old. Just a few days ago, I turned 12 again. But I just wanted to let you know the correct info. So yeah, I chose this outcome for myself, in a way, so I should be okay with it. But I'm not. The girl cried out. She had been holding something in, and now it had finally shown itself to the world. I wanted to continue being a hero. I wanted to fulfill my promise. Now I can't do that because I acted like an idiot, which led to everything crumbling away. I can't stop blaming myself for being so stupid. I didn't think of what I was doing or what I had to carry out, so I fumbled and lost it all. The only correct thing I was able to accomplish was keeping one of my kohai out of harm's way.
What promise? Izuku then pointed out. It had been a small detail that he hadn't let pass. The girl then went over to a drawer and pulled out a very precious photo to her, and just after, she handed it to the green-haired boy.
That's my father. He passed away when I was almost 6. I barely have memories of our time together, but I still have one that I remember to this day. Days before he was taken, on his hospital bed, he told me that perhaps I could be a hero someday. One that could cheer the whole world round. Me, not knowing what he truly meant, then promised to be a hero that could make everyone cheer up. One that could make everyone smile. One that could even make him smile once more like he hadn't been able to in a while. At that moment, he gave me the biggest smile he could muster and told me that that made me happy and I should strive to do so. To this day, I still remember that. And now After saying this, Nejire just collapsed to the floor and she began to cry. Izuku embraced her once more and reassured her that it would be okay, that her father would be proud of everything that she had accomplished and everything that she would achieve in the future. It took a bit of time for her to recover from that, but once she did, Midoriya handed the photo back to her, placing it back to where it once was.
So, why do you have your hero suit on display? The boy then asked, curious as to why the suit was now in one of the corners of her room.
I thought that it would help me get through what I'm feeling. I wanted to move forward and be able to look back at it to then tell that I didn't need it anymore.
Nejire answered as she placed her hand on the suit that now towered over her. Hopefully, you get to that point.
Yeah, hopefully someday.
Nejire then told Izuku that she was now coursing through the 6th grade at Dagobah Academia, a school encompassing all grades from K to 12. Unlike Uraraka, Nejire had decided to go back to a school year fit to her new age. Midoriya didn't understand why she would do this when she was about to graduate from high school, but perhaps this was a better option for her after what had happened. Minutes later, as Deku was leaving, Nejire decided to speak up one last time.
Please don't tell her about what I said. I don't want her to know that I took those bullets for her.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
She gave him a quick smile just after, and he left the room. Once she heard that he was gone, Nejire went over to her hero suit and tried putting it on again. The tears escaped her as she saw herself in the mirror sporting her hero suit that now fit like a tent. Right after, she tried striking her usual Nejire-chan pose, but she was unable to keep it up for long due to the now very present heaviness of her accessories. As a last-ditch effort, she tried to use her waves with her gauntlets, but nothing came out as expected. They both fell to the floor with a loud clunk, and the girl only stared at her own little hands that would be lost in her suit if she were to lower them. A quirk that was stolen could never be recovered unless it was given back, and this fact was very well known to the girl. She just didn't want to accept it. She could only hold herself as she collapsed on her knees and began sobbing.
Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The girl kept repeating to herself as she had once again broken inside. A long time after, towards the end of November at Central Fukuoka, Dabi had gotten through most of his plan, but the final dance was still to come in a few short minutes. The big reveal would soon be public. The high-end Nomu. Hood had just been taken out by Endeavor with the assistance of Hawks, but as both heroes stood there battered and heavily injured, Dabi made his entrance alongside 6 other high-end Nomus. It's nice to meet you, Endeavor. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it.
Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. If you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Now, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. And if you want more content from me, check out my socials at Trina Do Heart on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a great day!